Jae Wook reveals why he initially turned down Alchemy of Souls, who he wants to win Best Couple with, and more. Following the conclusion of Alchemy of Souls Part 2, lead actor Jae Wook has dished on his first impression of the drama, behind-the-scenes stories, and more. Set in the fictional nation of Daho, Alchemy of Souls is a fantasy romance drama about people whose fates become twisted due to magic that swaps people's souls. After Part 1 of the drama stole viewers' hearts this past summer, Alchemy of Souls returned last month with Part 2, which is set 3 years after the end of Part 1. Part 2 aired its finale on January 8, achieving the drama's highest viewership ratings across both parts with 9.7%. Jae Wook recently sat down for an interview with Sports News to talk about the drama's conclusion, his character, chemistry with his co-stars, and much more. Jae Wook began, "I feel that we concluded our one-year project well, so I'm happy. I want to thank all the viewers who tuned into Alchemy of Souls. As Alchemy of Souls is an entirely fictional fantasy historical drama with no history or background," Jae Wook was asked his first impression of the script. He replied, "I was flustered. As you know, it was an incredibly difficult setup and the situations were novel, so it was hard to imagine the script. It was a script with new spaces and settings." Jae Wook then revealed, "To be honest, I turned it down at first." He elaborated, "It was too difficult and I wondered whether I'd be able to pull this project off well. However, I think I came to do it solely out of my desire to take on a new challenge. From the actor's perspective, I'm incredibly satisfied with the results. Also, isn't this a drama you don't know when you'll encounter again? I'm counting on the fact that I concluded well." While Jae Wook's character Jae Wook was more bright and cheerful in Part 1, he undergoes an extreme transformation and emerges as a dark monster in Part 2. The actor remarked, "I thought that the gap between the character of Wook in Parts 1 and 2 was big. When I did a reading with the writer, they also expressed their hopes that I'd think of and portray Jae Wook of Part 1 and 2 as two different characters. In order to showcase entirely different characters, I removed Jae Wook's voice tone and tried to speak concisely and stiffly in my daily life too." Another big change from Part 1 and 2 was the female lead. While Young So-min starred in Part 1 as the female lead Mu-deok/Nakso, her character eventually evolved into Jin Buletin-yeon/Nakso played by Go Yoon-young for Part 2. Despite this, Jae Wook shared, "The situation of the female lead changing in Part 2 was not a big problem for me. Within Jae Wook and Go Yoon-young's relationship in Part 2, there were certain lines said by Jae Wook that seemed to erase what happened 3 years prior, much to the shock and disappointment of fans." Regarding this, Jae Wook commented, "After Wook had decided to die, his emotions then were honestly made up of the feeling, let's make this woman my wife. As what he wanted was death, he thought if I have this woman, I will be able to achieve the death I longed for 3 years. That's why the only person within Jae Wook's boundaries was Jin Buletin-yeon."